Exactly 8:45 a.m. News and views on Salam Media, and our next guest is Professor Sam Comer. He's a governance expert. We've talked with him plenty of times in the past, and he's here once again to give us insights into, a very, very important issue. A statement made by Cyril Ramaphosa at over the weekend. And I'm just wondering how this is going to tip the scales regarding the young people and their vote come the 2024 elections. Okay, so as the country draws closer to election day, Ramaphosa says that the electorate should bear in mind that the country might change for the worse should the ANC lose power. And then he also goes on to say that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme currently funds nearly 1.3 million students a year, and studies have shown that 47% of South Africans rely on monthly social grants. But it does say that if the ANC is not in power post the elections, there's a possibility that all of those grants will fall away. Professor Koma, very good morning to you. Welcome. And I'm wondering, was that a sneaky trick by Professor Cyril Ramaphosa by having suggested that, suggesting the situation of grants, very especially the NSFAS grants? Is that going to swing the vote at all?
Yes, thank you, Julie, for the opportunity. We know that what President Ramaphosa uttered during the celebration of the anniversary of the ANC is pure fabrication, and basically this borders on politics of desperation. But we know that in Africa, especially in countries that have been led by former liberation movements, they usually resort to scare electioneering tactics. So, just as part of their campaign, if you take example of Zimbabwe, ZANU PF will normally tell the Zimbabweans to say, if you don't re-elect ZANU PF into power, the colonizers are likely to come back. Now, the ANC's election campaign for 2024 is anchored around the messaging of the 30 years of South Africa's democratic order. Now, the party, through its president, is saying that since 1994, the ANC led government has catered for about 18 million people through the various social grants. Now, because it is a party that is seeking re election, it then has to resort to this tactic to say, if we don't get re-elected to government to govern again for the next 5 years, you beneficiaries of these social grants, you are likely to lose these grants because a new government that is not an ANC-led government may decide to remove these grants. Now, we know that social grants in South Africa are part of the social security scheme that is provided for in our Constitution, Section 27. It states that everyone has the right to have access to social security. Now, the state, through the social grants that it has put in place, is part of meeting its constitutional obligations. We also know that the Constitutional Court has on numerous occasions affirmed this constitutional right to have access to social security to South African citizens. And of course, this is based on the various litigation that have come before the Constitutional Court. So it is incorrect for the president to make this kind of a statement. As I said, this is one of the rights that is encapsulated in the Bill of Rights, which is in the Constitution. The same with the National Student Financial Aid. We know that Section 29 of the Constitution also grants everyone the right to further education, and that provides for the state to come up with reasonable measures as part of fulfilling this particular right. So the state, through the National Student Financial Aid, is an attempt to cater for this constitutional obligation. So
So,
there's no
Professor,
merit to what the president said.
okay, so Julius Malema has responded as follows, and I'm wondering what we can read into that comment of his. He goes on to say there's absolutely no child and definitely no adult who can survive with 350 Rand or 450 Rand per month. The plan is that you cut expenditure on those nice to haves as you lift the grant above the poverty line. uh, Obviously, he's alluding to the politicians, the fat cat politicians, who are living very, very soft. Do you think the suggestion is that perhaps if they do go into coalition with whichever party, that they may use this as an election, an election trick to get people to vote to them, to say, if you vote EFF or DA, for example, we will work on getting higher grants for you above 350 and 450. Do you think that is what his response is saying?
Definitely, Julie. You remember the concern already has been around the issue of the high cost of living, and the concern has always been that the amounts accompanying these social grants are not set in line with the consumer price index or the inflation rate. So all these parties, in fact, all of them, as part of their election campaign, they will be saying to the voters, including the beneficiaries of the social grants, to say, if you put us into power, we will definitely make sure that these amounts that are meager are going to be increased substantially to cater for your growing needs and also your challenges in terms of catering for your circumstances as a beneficiary. Ability to afford this basket of food, and also ability to also cater for this other rising cost. It could be in terms of transport and also other related costs, including municipal services in the main.
Okay, let's look at the situation around the ANC. They have always been promoting the policy of being pro poor. They also go on to say that they don't know of any other country on the continent that has committed itself to 18 million people who receive grants, young and old, as well as an additional 10 million who get the grant of 350 Rand per month. What is that suggesting regarding the stark contrast that we see playing out in the Western Cape with a DA led government there, provincial government? We do know that property prices um, are absolutely sky high. A normal South African, unless you're a millionaire or a billionaire, can't afford to live in the Western Cape or own property in the Western Cape. It seems as if that market has been targeted to overseas buyers. There's a stark difference between the working class and the rich in the Western Cape. How are the elections going to play out, taking that picture into consideration?
Yes, Julie. So we know that a fact which is undisputable is that the ANC led government since 1994, through the provision of housing in the form of what they call RDP houses, uh, is not comparable to any country in the continent and elsewhere in the world. So this is a unique situation we have in the country, that we have a government that is able, through the housing program, to build houses that so far have benefited close to 6 million uh, beneficiaries. So that's a key achievement and also a highlight for this government. And it is good that they are also leveraging that. With the 30 years that we have been in power, these are the major achievements that we're able to record as a country. And of course, there are still challenges that are facing us. We intend to overcome them, but give us another opportunity to get re-elected and also carry on with our electoral mandate and also our policy interventions to deal with these socioeconomic conditions, poverty, and also inequality, and also issues related to unemployment. Yes, so the issue pertaining to the Western Cape, we know that is also part of the land reform program that the government has also put in place. But we know that there's always been a concern around the slow pace at which the government is proceeding to deal decisively with the issue of land reform. But remember, property rights are also constitutional rights. Everyone in South Africa has the right to own property, uh, irrespective of the pricing and also the market nature of this property that people usually or invariably will own as part of their acquisition of properties and also sustaining their livelihood.
Okay, what has been doing the rounds recently is the fact that we have very many rich individuals, foreigners buying up property, prime property in the Western Cape. The poor and the working class are now feeling very marginalized. They're also accusing the DA government there. And I know that I'm digressing from our regional discussion regarding Ramaphosa's threats that people will lose their social grants if the ANC doesn't come into power. But I do think all of this is interlinked. So the poor and the working class in the Western Cape are complaining that they're not being given equal, they're not being afforded equal services, municipal services, that all the monies are being spent on the more affluent suburbs and upkeeping services in those suburbs. They are now also making they're also making statements like apartheid is back and alive in the Western Cape because of the disparity between the poor, the working class, and the uber rich. Your thoughts?
Yes, so this is not a new topic. I remember some years ago, Thabo Mbeki set up a task team to look at land ownership in the country. It's a task team that was chaired by Professor Guto. That task team arrived at the conclusion and a finding that, yes, indeed, a bigger chunk of land in the country is owned by foreigners. And it also proposed some measures and recommendations as part of addressing this anomaly. But you are right, we are a country that is still facing the issue of spatial inequalities or inequities. And that is the reason in most of these urban centers, not only in the Western Cape, Gauteng, and other places, you still have this disparity that only those who have or are well off or are rich are the ones who can afford these facilities and also these properties in most of these affluent places, to the disadvantage and also exclusion of the working class. So that's the reason the government, through the policy on housing, they are now talking about human settlements. Let's have mixed housing patterns in all the places, including the urban centers, that to a large extent accommodates these two categories or classes of groups or individuals: the rich, the middle class, and also the working poor. So it's work in progress, but this is an issue that needs to be decisively and radically addressed forthwith.
There's so much more we can talk about regarding this issue. I think it is quite a sticking point, not only with the rich, but with the poor as well. But we have run out of time. We need to pick up on this particular uh, point in a future program, very especially of how that will impact on property prices going forward and also foreign investment. But let's leave that for another time. Thank you indeed, Professor Sam Koma. You are a governance expert, and we do appreciate your insights. Go well.
Pleasure, Julie. Bye.
Exactly 9 o'clock news and views on Salam Media, and time for us to join our news correspondent. That, of course, is I Jadwat with the bulletin of the morning.